At 6 years old, I stood in the middle of a crowded mall holding a melted ice cream cone, waiting for parents who never came back. 23 years later, those same parents walked into a courtroom demanding $2.6 million from the man who saved my life. They expected a scared little girl. They expected tears. They expected me to break. What they didn't expect was that I would be sitting at the judge's bench, their judge. And when they realized who I was, the entire courtroom stopped breathing. You are welcome. If this is your first time, please do well to subscribe, like and comment where you are watching from. Let's dive in. The day they abandoned me wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't the kind of moment people in movies scream about. It was quiet, clean, planned. I was 6 years old, holding my mother's hand as we walked through Westview Mall. My father walked ahead, irritated, tapping his keys against his leg like he always did when he was thinking too hard about something that wasn't me. Stay here, he said suddenly, stopping in front of the toy store. We'll be right back, my mother added. She kissed my forehead. It felt real, warm, safe. And then they walked away. I waited. 5 minutes. Then 10. Then 20. The ice cream I was holding melted onto my shoes before I understood something was wrong. People passed by, laughing, shopping, living. No one noticed the quiet little girl with tear-stained cheeks and pink sneakers soaked in chocolate. A security guard found me after an hour, trembling and unable to speak. He asked me for my parents' names. I whispered them. He called the mall speakers. No one came. By midnight, the police figured it out. My parents had moved states. They disconnected their phones. They left no forwarding address. They didn't lose me. They left me. The state put me into emergency care, and that night I cried until my throat burned. My last memory of childhood wasn't a toy, or a birthday, or a bedtime kiss. It was the sound of a metal door closing behind me. But fate, real, unpredictable fate, doesn't always punch in one direction. 3 days later, Michael Grant walked into the social services office. He was quiet, tall, wearing a brown coat and tired eyes. He told the worker, I can take one. Just one. Whoever needs a home the most. That was me. I didn't know then that he was a billionaire living under a false name. I didn't know he had built and sold companies in silence. I didn't know he had no children of his own. All I knew was that he knelt, looked me in the eyes and said, You can come home with me if you want. No one had ever asked me if I wanted anything before. I nodded. Michael wasn't perfect, but he was good. Truly good. He made me do homework, taught me chess, told me stories about mountains he climbed before his health began failing. He never once tried to replace my parents. He just became home. Years passed. I studied, fought, built myself, became a judge by 35. But nothing prepared me for the phone call I received the morning he died, or the storm that followed the reading of his will. Because he left me everything. And the people who abandoned me? They suddenly crawled out of the shadows, dressed in grief, demanding millions. They thought they were walking into court to take my money. They had no idea they were walking into my courtroom. The courthouse smelled like old books, cold air, and lies waiting to be told. I walked through the back entrance in my black robe, calm and collected. But inside, my heart was a battlefield. Memories of crying in that mall, of waiting for parents who never came back, of being sick and disposable. My assistant whispered, Your 9 a.m. case is here. The plaintiffs insisted on arriving early. Plaintiffs. My biological parents. The same people who once left me behind like a forgotten bag of groceries. They had no idea who the judge would be today. I entered the courtroom from the judge's chamber, steps echoing against the marble. When I took my seat on the bench, the room fell silent. My parents' lawyer stood, arranging his papers. My mother fanned herself dramatically. My father leaned back smug, as if he already owned the verdict. I cleared my throat. Case number 4827B. Morgan versus Morgan. Plaintiffs. Biological parents seeking financial compensation from their abandoned child. My mother's head jerked up. Her eyes widened. Her jaw dropped. My father mumbled, This must be a joke. But it wasn't. It was karma, wearing a judicial robe. My mother finally found her voice. How How are you, the judge? I looked straight at her, steady and emotionless. Please address the court properly, Mrs. Morgan. Gasps filled the room. She laughed, a desperate, cracking laugh. We are your parents. You can't do this case. I leaned forward slightly. You should have thought about that the day you left a 6-year-old in a mall food court. Her face drained of color. Their lawyer, flustered, adjusted his glasses and tried to regain control. Your Honor, my clients simply want what is rightfully theirs. They claim they were always prepared to care for their daughter. I cut him off. Prepared? They abandoned me without reporting it. No police report. No search. No legal termination of parental rights. They simply walked away. My voice echoed, sharp and slicing. The lawyer swallowed hard. My father glared at me. We created you. That money is ours by blood. I raised an eyebrow. Then perhaps you should have acted like parents when it mattered. Silence spread like wildfire. Because in that moment everyone in the courtroom realized something. This wasn't a lawsuit. This was a reckoning. And I wasn't the scared little girl in the mall anymore. I was the judge. And this time I decided who walked away. The courtroom was so silent you could hear the clock ticking behind me. My biological parents sat stiffly at the plaintiff's table, faces pale, confidence fading by the second. But their nightmare hadn't even begun. Because Act 3 was where the truth finally came home. I folded my hands on the bench. Mr. and Mrs. Morgan, you claim entitlement to $2.6 million left to me by my adopted father. Your argument is based on biological connection. Before we proceed, I need clarification. Where were you for the last 20 years? My mother straightened, rehearsed tears welling up. We were grieving. We searched for you. We thought you were kidnapped. We were devastated. A delicate lie, wrapped in fake sorrow. I nodded slowly. A tragic story. Fortunately, I brought evidence today. I signaled to my court officer. He rolled in a cart with a thick binder and several USB drives. My parents' lawyer visibly paled. These are official records, I announced. Security footage, mall logs, social worker notes, and most importantly, the police files from the day I disappeared. I opened the binder to the first page and read aloud. According to mall security, the Morgans were observed leaving the building with full shopping bags, and without their child. When questioned, Mrs. Morgan stated, "Oh, she'll find us when she's done whining." My mother slammed her hand on the table. That is a lie. I held up the footage remote. Let's check. The screen lit up. Grainy video. A little girl, me, holding a teddy bear, walking behind two adults who never once looked back. Then they sped up, walked faster, and finally, left the building without turning around. My mother gasped like someone had pulled the air from her lungs. My father whispered, "Turn that off." I didn't. The footage played until little me stopped running and began crying. The courtroom shifted, uncomfortable. I changed slides. Social worker notes, dated the next morning. Parents did not report child missing. Phone numbers disconnected. Home vacated within 48 hours. My father's fists clenched. Their lawyer looked like he regretted ever taking the case. But I wasn't finished. Here is the final piece of evidence, I said. The police file from 6 months later, when officers located you in another state. I read the report. Upon questioning, Mr. Morgan stated, "We're starting over." She wasn't fitting in. The room exploded in whispers. My parents' faces collapsed. I pressed on. "So tell me, on what basis do you now feel entitled to anything left to me by the man who raised me, protected me, and loved me when you did not?" My mother wiped her eyes, voice trembling. We made a mistake." I leaned forward. "No. A mistake is forgetting an appointment. Abandoning a child is a choice." My father tried to salvage his pride. "You owe us. Without us, you wouldn't even exist." I looked him dead in the eye. "Existence is biology. Family is responsibility. And you chose neither." Gasps filled the air again. Their lawyer stood in defeat. "Your Honor, my clients withdraw their claim." My mother shook her head violently. "No. She owes US." She lunged forward, restrained instantly by the bailiff. I looked down at her trembling form. "Mrs. Morgan, What you are owed is a consequence, not compensation. And with one strike of the gavel, case dismissed. My parents stared at me with a mixture of shock, rage, and disbelief, because after 20 years of silence, the child they abandoned had finally spoken back. But the story wasn't over. Not even close. Because next, I would discover the real reason they wanted that money. The bailiff escorted my biological parents out of the courtroom screaming, their voices echoing down the marble hallway like ghosts refusing to leave the living. But I remained seated. Watching them crumble wasn't victory. It was only confirmation. Confirmation of something I had sensed from the moment they appeared. Something that didn't match their sudden desperation for money. Because their faces didn't show greed. They showed fear. And fear has a source. As the courtroom emptied, my adopted father's lawyer, Mr. Hawthorne, walked toward me with a folder tucked under his arm. When he reached the bench, he exhaled. Judge Morgan, I think it's time you know the truth. The real reason they tried to take the inheritance. He placed the folder in front of me. This was sealed by your father. He instructed me to give it to you only after the court case ended. And only if your biological parents tried to interfere with what he left you. I felt my pulse spike. My father had known. He had planned for this moment. My fingers trembled only slightly as I opened the folder. Inside were 3 items. 1. A faded photograph. 2. A signed confession. 3. A property deed. I picked up the photo first. It showed my biological parents standing in the entrance of a luxury house, smiling proudly. But behind them, near the doorframe, was a shadow, an arm, of another man. A man whose face was out of frame, but whose watch I recognized instantly. My adopted father's watch. The platinum one he never took off. A cold current ran through me. They knew each other? I whispered. Mr. Hawthorne nodded slowly. More than you think. I opened the confession next. It was written in my adopted father's elegant handwriting. If you are reading this, it means the truth must finally be known. Your biological parents did not abandon you because they were overwhelmed. They abandoned you because they were paid to. I froze. Paid. To leave me? The letter continued. Your mother was losing everything. Her business, her home, her credit. Your father had gambling debts that were turning dangerous. They intended to give you to the state. Until I intervened. My breath caught. My adopted father had saved me before I even knew him. But the next paragraph hit even harder. I paid them a significant amount to release their parental rights and leave the state. I did this because I believed you deserved a chance at life, not the chaos they had created. My hand shook as I read the final lines. If they ever return, it will not be for you. It will be for the money they believe is still owed. My lungs tightened. Everything suddenly made sense. Their sudden reappearance. Their greedy lawsuit. Their panic when evidence came out. They weren't chasing $2.6 million. They were chasing the payment they believed my father had withheld. The payment they believed he still owed them for abandoning me. But the biggest shock was still inside the folder. The property deed. It was for a massive coastal estate. Worth far more than the $2.6 million. And written on the margin. For when you are ready, to know everything. Go home. I stared at the deed. My biological parents hadn't just betrayed me. They had sold me. And the man who rescued me had left me the key to unraveling everything they tried to hide. I stood gripping the folder. Act 4 was the reveal. Act 5 would be the confrontation. The one where they learned exactly who they had tried to steal from. The coastal estate from the deed was 3 hours outside the city, hidden behind winding cliff roads and iron gates wrapped in salt-kissed vines. I'd driven past this coastline 100 times, never knowing that somewhere along it sat a home built out of secrets, including mine. When I reached the entrance, the gate opened automatically, recognizing the code Mr. Hawthorne had texted me earlier. The tires crunched over smooth white gravel. And then I saw it. A mansion of glass and dark stone, perched over the ocean like a sentinel guarding the edge of the world. Quiet, magnificent, and strangely familiar. Like I had memories here that didn't belong to me. Inside, everything smelled faintly of cedar and old books. The walls were lined with photographs, but none of them were hung. They were stacked. packed, waiting. As if my father had known he wouldn't live to finish arranging the story he intended to tell me. Room by room, I discovered pieces of him. A library with notes scribbled in margins. A studio full of draft inventions. A piano bench with his coat still draped over it. And then, a study. Locked. The key from the folder fit perfectly. The door swung open with a slow groan, revealing the place where my father had lived the last years of his life. And sitting on the center desk was a leather journal marked only with my name. I opened it. The first page was a letter. My child, I bought this home the day I met you. A stranger left behind in a mall, clutching a half-eaten pretzel and trying not to cry. But when you looked at me, I saw something I recognized. Myself. A tightness gripped my throat. He continued. I knew your parents were planning to disappear. Not because they didn't love you, but because they loved money more. I made them an offer. Give you up permanently, and I'd pay their debts. They agreed in less than 10 minutes. The words hit like a blow. 10 minutes. That's how long my worth had taken to calculate. I wanted to take you that same night, but legally I couldn't. So I followed you from a distance for months, making sure you were safe in the foster system until I could adopt you. My knees weakened. I sat down. I had always believed he simply found me by chance. That he chose me the day he walked into that community center fundraiser. But the truth was deeper. He had been watching over me long before I knew his name. I turned the page. There were photos. Me at school, me at the playground, me winning a spelling bee. All taken from far away. He had been there. Every time I'd thought no one cared, someone had. Then the next section of the journal shifted tone. There is something else you must know. Your biological parents didn't return because they're entitled. They returned because they're desperate. After I paid them, they fell back into the same patterns, debt fraud schemes. And now someone dangerous is after them. My breath stalled. Dangerous? The journal ended abruptly after that sentence, as if he had intended to continue, but time ran out. I closed the book slowly. This wasn't just inheritance anymore. This was a puzzle, a warning, and possibly a threat. And I needed answers. Badly. As I stood to leave, I heard a car drive up the gravel outside. I moved to the window. My blood went cold. My biological parents were getting out of the car. They had found me. And judging by the panic in their movements, they weren't alone. My heart thudded once, sharp, instinctive, before settling into a cold, controlled rhythm. I pulled away from the window just as the front doorbell echoed through the house. It wasn't a normal ring. It was frantic, impatient, borderline desperate. I didn't answer. A second later, fists pounded on the wood. Open the door. My mother's voice. Too loud. Too shaky. Then my father's. We know you're in there. You have to help us. Help. The word tasted bitter. I stayed silent. After minutes of shouting, the pounding stopped. Whispers replaced it. Urgent, uneven. Then, a new voice. Male. Deep. Chilled me instantly. Are you sure she's here? My mother's voice cracked. Yes, she just found out about the will. She has to be here. Please, just give us time. His reply was a threat wrapped in casual calm. You have 10 minutes. After that, I don't care whose door I break. My stomach tightened. So this was the danger my adoptive father warned me about. I slipped silently through the hallway, moving deeper into the house, toward the security panel. My father had always been paranoid. Now I finally understood why. I pressed the emergency button. The house shifted with a low mechanical hum as the steel shutters slid over the windows, sealing everything in. Outside, pounding started again, harder this time. What is that sound? My father shouted. My mother shrieked. She locked us out. The unknown man spoke again, irritation simmering. Break it. My pulse kicked. I ran to the back corridor, where a hidden passage connected to the garage. My father had mentioned it once. This house has exits they'll never find. I grabbed the journal off the desk, tucking it under my arm, and slipped into the narrow hall just as the front door cracked violently. The sound was unmistakable. Wood splintering. Metal bending. A house being invaded. I hit the lights in the passage, Darkness swallowed the corridor, and I hurried through the shadows. Behind me, footsteps thundered into the foyer. Then, "Where is SHE?" the stranger roared. My mother sobbed. "She won't help us, she hates us, you don't understand." My father tried smoothing it over. "We just need the money, if she signs over a portion." A gun cocked. Silence froze the air. "Money," the man hissed. "You owe me more than money. You owe me answers." My skin tightened. This wasn't just a debt collector. This was someone who expected payment in blood. I reached the door at the end of the passage and cracked it open just slightly. The garage was dark. Safe. But before I slipped inside, something made me pause. Voices drifted through the walls, clearer as the intruders spread through the house. They were searching rooms one by one, shouting, dragging things, slamming doors. Then I heard it. My name. My mother's voice trembling sharp. "Please. SHE has the inheritance. The deed. The journal. If you want anything, you need her." My entire body went cold. They had just sold me out. Not metaphorically. Not legally. Literally. To a criminal. I stepped back into the garage, shutting the hidden passage behind me. My hands shook, but my mind was steady. If they wanted me, they'd have to catch me first. I slid into my adoptive father's old car, the one he never let anyone else touch, and hit the ignition. The engine purred to life. Inside the house, a crash erupted. They were close. Too close. I took a deep breath. Then I whispered the words I had never said out loud. "You abandoned me once. You won't decide my fate again." I floored the accelerator. The garage door blasted open, and I sped into the night, with the journal, the truth, and 3 very dangerous people now hunting me. Night swallowed me as the car shot down the driveway, gravel spitting beneath the tires. The cold wind slapped my face through the half-open window, but it kept me awake, sharp, focused. Behind me, the house erupted. Shouts. Footsteps. Then tires screeching. They were coming. The headlights appeared in my rearview mirror like twin predatory eyes. The stranger had found a car, and he wasn't wasting time. My pulse hammered in my neck, but my mind stayed clear. Think. Dad said this estate had back roads, hidden paths. I gripped the wheel tighter and veered off the main road onto a narrow dirt trail my adoptive father used for deliveries. Trees closed over me like a tunnel. The other car followed. Close. Too close. The journal sat on the passenger seat, pages fluttering with every sharp turn. My father's handwriting stared back at me, bold, decisive. I didn't know why, but it felt like he was still guiding me. The trail opened briefly, revealing a sharp drop to the left. A cliff. A steep, screaming fall into darkness. I stayed on the right. The car behind me didn't slow down. A voice echoed in my head, my mother's. "Please. SHE has the inheritance. The journal. If you want anything, you need her." I tasted blood from biting my lip. They had offered me like a bargaining chip. Again. Like when I was a child in the mall, forgotten, abandoned, discarded. Only now the stakes were higher. Now someone wanted me dead. The dirt road ended abruptly, splitting into 2. Left led deeper into the forest. Right led downward toward the old service bridge my adoptive father built years ago. The woods felt too tight. Too easy to trap. So I took the right. The tires slid as I descended. The stranger accelerated. He was gaining on me. I reached the bridge, narrow, shaky, old wood groaning under the weight of my car. I hesitated. Just for a moment. Would it hold? Behind me, the man shouted something I couldn't hear, but his headlights flashed, his engine screamed. He wasn't stopping. I hit the gas. The bridge rattled under me like bones snapping. Halfway across, beams cracked. Boards split. The car dipped once, hard, making my heart jump into my throat. But it held. Barely. When I reached solid ground on the other side, I spun the wheel hard and skidded behind a ridge where trees hid the path. And I watched. The stranger's car reached the bridge. He didn't slow. He thundered onto the wooden planks. Crack. Snap. A fracture tore through the structure. One of his wheels plunged. The car lurched sideways. He cursed, loud, violent, but it was too late. The bridge gave out beneath him. The entire vehicle dropped halfway through the shattered boards, metal screeching as it hung suspended. Not a total fall. Not completely trapped. But enough. Enough for me to breathe. Enough for a few seconds. My hands shook violently now, adrenaline finally catching up to the terror. He would climb out. He would come again. This wasn't over. I grabbed the journal with trembling fingers and opened to a marked page. The one with the torn edge. A map. A route. A destination circled in red ink. My father had left something for me. Not money. Not property. Instructions. A plan. The next move in a game he knew would begin after his death. I whispered into the empty car. Okay, Dad. I'm listening. I jammed the car into drive and sped away from the collapsing bridge, deeper into the night. Behind me, the man roared in fury. Close, but not close enough. The hunt had begun. But now, I finally understood. I wasn't running from my past anymore. I was running toward the truth. The road narrowed into a winding path flanked by tall pines that swallowed the moonlight. I followed the map exactly. Every curve, every hidden turn. My father's red ink guiding me through the darkness like a hand on my shoulder. 3 miles from the shattered bridge, I reached a metal gate almost invisible behind overgrown vines. A rusted keypad sat on the post. My fingers hesitated. There was no code written in the journal. But another page slipped loose, one with 4 numbers scribbled in the lower corner. 0609. My birthday. Of course it was. I typed it in. The gate buzzed, shook, then slowly dragged open. Beyond it lay an old stone cottage I had never seen before. Small. Weather-worn. Completely silent. A safe house. My father had prepared this. For me. I parked and stepped out cautiously, journal clutched to my chest. The air felt still, too still, but not threatening. Like the world was holding its breath. Inside, the cottage smelled faintly of cedar and machine oil. Dust coated the shelves, but the space was clean, organized. Not abandoned, maintained. Like someone had been expecting me. My heart clenched. I approached a large wooden chest in the center of the room. On top of it sat an envelope with my name in my father's unmistakable handwriting. Laura. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a single sentence. If you're reading this, they came for you sooner than I hoped. My knees nearly buckled. Dad had known. He had known they would return. Known my biological parents would try something. Known someone far more dangerous would be looking for this journal. Because the journal wasn't about inheritance. It was evidence. Years of documents. Statements. Proof. My father had uncovered a massive financial scheme tied to a syndicate. A group my biological parents had worked with before abandoning me. They hadn't left me because they didn't want me. They left me because someone wanted to use me. I swallowed hard as I read the rest of the letter. You were never safe with them. I took you to protect you. This journal contains the last piece of evidence needed to dismantle the people who exploited them. And who will exploit you if they find you. Go to the vault. You must finish what I started. My breath froze. A vault? I flipped through the journal and found another sketch. A metal door disguised beneath the cottage floor. I searched until I located the latch beneath the rug. A square section of wooden boards lifted, revealing a steel hatch embedded in concrete. Protected. Hidden. Meant for one person only. I pulled the lever. The hatch hissed open. Inside the vault was a narrow stairway leading down into darkness. Cold air rushed up, smelling of metal, safety and secrets. I grabbed a flashlight from the shelf and descended. The vault was larger than I expected, lined with filing cabinets, locked cases, and a single desk with a recording device. A red button blinked. A message waiting to be played. My chest tightened as I pressed it. A soft click. Then, my father's voice. Laura, if you're here, I'm gone. The room spun. I pressed a hand to my mouth, stopping a sob. His voice continued, calm but urgent. I raised you because you were never disposable. They didn't abandon you. They delivered you to a threat they didn't understand. You must use the evidence here to clear your name, protect your inheritance, and expose the man they're sending after you. A chill spread through me. The recording crackled as Dad added. And Laura, you know him. He works closer to you than you think. I froze. Closer to me? Suddenly, The sound of an engine growled outside the cottage. Gravel shifting. A door slamming. Footsteps. The stranger had found me, and I was trapped inside a vault with nowhere to run. The courtroom felt strangely quiet that morning, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. My parents sat at their table, whispering intensely to each other. My mother kept straightening her blazer, and my father tapped his foot non-stop, a nervous tic I remembered from childhood. Me? I walked in calm, collected, and fully done with their nonsense. Judge Thompson, the senior judge assigned to the case so I could legally stay involved, entered with steady authority. He adjusted his glasses, glanced between both sides, and said, "Today, we deliver the final ruling in the estate dispute of the late Mr. Alexander Pierce." My heart tightened at the mention of my adopted father. My real father, the only one who ever chose me. My parents' lawyer had already imploded earlier, thanks to the will's secret clauses and the recorded confession they didn't know existed. They tried switching lawyers last minute, but no attorney in the county wanted to touch the case now. They were representing themselves, and it showed. Judge Thompson shuffled the files. "I have reviewed all evidence, including the deceased's recorded testament, the adoption documents, and the plaintiff's prior statements given during their initial police report when they abandoned the defendant as a minor." My mother flinched. My father swallowed hard. The judge continued. "It appears the plaintiffs willingly relinquished their parental rights 21 years ago." They opened their mouths to object, but he raised a hand. "Please do not interrupt. You made it abundantly clear that you did not want responsibility for your child. Mr. Pierce legally adopted her, raised her, educated her, and cared for her until his passing." His voice softened slightly. "It is also clear he intended for her, and only her, to inherit his estate." My mother bolted upright. "That money was supposed to be ours," she blurted. People in the gallery gasped. Judge Thompson leaned forward. "Ms. Morgan, that statement alone proves your intentions. You have shown no grief for the deceased, only hunger for his wealth. This court does not reward neglect, nor greed." My father tried another angle. "We gave her life. Doesn't that count for something?" I finally spoke. "You abandoned me in a mall at 6 years old. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. You left me to be found by strangers like I was trash. You don't get to walk back in now because suddenly I'm valuable to you." For the first time, they didn't have a comeback. Judge Thompson lifted the final document. "Here is the ruling." The courtroom stiffened. The plaintiff's lawsuit is dismissed with prejudice. They are ordered to pay court fees, filing expenses, and restitution for emotional distress. The defendant is the sole beneficiary of Mr. Pierce's $2.7 million estate, effective immediately. My parents' faces collapsed, pure shock, like they had never imagined losing. Their entitled world shattered in one sentence. But the judge wasn't done. Additionally, due to evidence showing attempted fraud and harassment, the plaintiffs are restricted from contacting the defendant without legal counsel present. My mother gasped. "You can't do this." "Oh yes," Judge Thompson said. "I can." The gavel hit the block. Court adjourned. A wave of relief washed through me. Heavy, cleansing, final. My biological parents stormed out, furious and humiliated. But I didn't watch them leave. Instead, I looked up at the ceiling, imagining Alexander Pierce smiling somewhere, proud of me. Not because I won the case, but because I stood up for myself. That day, I realized something. Family is not who shares your blood. Family is who shows up. And mine showed up the day he chose me. Justice wasn't revenge. Justice was closure. And finally, I was free. Thanks for watching till the end. Please do well to subscribe, and tell us where you are watching from.